Hi everyone and welcome to SOLIDWORKS Model Mania made with Fusion 360. Today we will take up the challenge of a Model Mania year 2009. Let's start off by inspecting our 2D drawing. I'm going to zoom over the top view and notice this center point is where all dimensions are referring to. With this in mind, I will have this center point at the origin and we are going to sketch this profile. Let's minimize this. Let's start off by hitting C for circle and let's sketch on the XY plane. I'm going to zoom in, drop the center point at the origin. Let's key in 15. Right click and let's repeat center diameter circle. Create another circle and key in 25. Next, instead of creating two circles, I'm going to create a window selection to select both of the circles. Hit Ctrl C, left click anywhere outside the canvas to deselect and hit Ctrl V. Okay, let me pan this and move this pasted sketch to the left. Selecting OK. Next, I'm going to redefine the dimensions of these two circles. The outer circle to be 60, hitting enter. And we're going to change this 15 to 45. Next, hit D once more and let's define the distance between these two or four circles. Selecting the center point and this center point. Let's place the dimension here. Key in 125. Hitting enter. And let's apply a horizontal constraint between these two center points. Heading up, selecting horizontal vertical, selecting this center point and at this center point. Hitting escape. Next, let me rearrange these two diameter circles. Let me zoom out and hit L for circle. Let's move over this circle over here. And at this intersection, I'm going to hold shift and left click and hold simultaneously. So notice the inferred tangent constraint. Let's head over to the other circle at the right and notice as I hover over and see the intersection and move to the right, I am seeing another inferred tangent. This time I'm going to release, repeat the procedure, hover over the circle with the intersection visible, holding shift and the left mouse button. Holding them both, heading to the right, and as the inferred tangent appears, I'm going to release. Hitting escape. And from here, we can now select a finish sketch. My next intent is to extrude the two cylinders. I'm going to hit E for extrude, selecting this profile and this profile. Let's pull this arrow up and key in 20. Operation New Body, selecting OK. Let's move to our sketches folder, twirl this down and turn on the visibility of sketch 1. Let's repeat extrude by right clicking, heading up, selecting repeat extrude, selecting this profile and this profile. Notice in this instance, I prefer not creating the hole at this moment. Let me pull this arrow up and key in for T. Operation New Body, selecting OK. Notice instead of creating a plane offset by 30 millimeters, we have created this cylinder on the same plane with this smaller body. What I intend to do now is head over to our bodies folder, selecting our larger body. Next, I'm going to hit M for a move. Grab this arrow up, and to be exact, I'm going to key in 30. Selecting OK. And in this instance, we have moved our larger cylinder up by 30 millimeters. Next, let's bring back the line, hitting L, and locate the midpoint of this projected edge. So notice the triangle, it's the midpoint. Left click, head over to the right, left click here, move down, left click here, and let's select our origin. Hitting escape. Let's add a horizontal constraint to this line. Notice the longer line is currently highlighted. To select nested items, I'm going to left click and hold, and this drop down will appear. So selecting our target line, which is this line, left click, head up, and select horizontal or vertical. Let's now hit D for dimension. Let's dimension this line. Move down, place our dimension here, key in 50. Same with this line. So once more, we need to left click and hold, and this drop down will appear, and let's select our target horizontal line, which is this line. Move down, key in 40, hitting escape. Let's add a fillet to this corners. Heading up, selecting fillet, hovering over this corner. Let's key in 20 for the radius. Right click, let's repeat the fillet, hovering over this corner, key in 20. But this time I prefer this dimension, which is D13, to be the same with D12. So I'm going to double left click D13 with the dimension highlighted. I'm going to select D12. Left click. So notice D13 is also D12. Next, let's offset this sketch. I'm going to hit O for offset, and make sure chain selection is enabled. Selecting this chain, let's move the slider up, key in 6, hitting enter. Let's now close this as a profile, hitting L for line, left click here, and double left click. Place our first point here, and double left click. Hitting escape. And let's now select finish sketch. Let's extrude this strip of a profile, hitting E, selecting this profile. Let's change the direction to symmetric. Let me pull this, head to top view. For the measurement, I want this to be whole length. And for the distance, let's key in 60. Operation to be join. Selecting OK. Our next intent is to trim out this excess material using this outline of this sketch. Let's recreate the outline of our first sketch. I'm going to head up, selecting create sketch, and let's sketch on our XY plane. Let me turn off the visibility of our body 1. Hit P for project. Let's project this line and this line. Selecting OK. Next, hit S for sketch shortcuts, typing ARC, and let's select 3-point arc. Let's drop our first point at this endpoint. moving to the next, and moving to the left. So notice the inferred tangent constraint, and now I'm going to left click to commit on that. Let's zoom over here. Left click on this endpoint, left click on this endpoint, move to the right. Notice the inferred tangent constraint. That's where we are going to left click. Okay, hitting escape, and let's now select finish sketch. Moving forward, let's turn on the visibility of our body and turn off the visibility of sketch 1 and sketch 2. Next, we're going to head up to surface and select extrude. For the profile, it will be this newly created profile. Selecting this. Let's move this arrow up. And for the extent, let's have this to object up to the top of this cylinder. Operation U body. I'm going to leave the defaults, selecting OK. Next, I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing SP and selecting split body. The body to split is our solid body. And the splitting tools, I'm going to left click here to activate this. We are going to select our surface body. I'm going to select or enable extend splitting tools to make sure. Selecting OK. Let's turn off the visibility of the surface body. Select these two bodies. Right click and let's remove this. Let me zoom in and let's inspect. Notice here we have an excess material. To remove that excess material, we are going to go back in time and extend this sketch. Okay? So with the sketch selected, I'm going to right click and select edit sketch. Let me zoom in here. I'm going to hit R for a rectangle and let's extend this profile up to here. So with the dimension highlighted, I'm going to key in 6 and a 6. Just to have a value. So once more, we need to go way past this point to the right. I'm going to hit enter. Let's zoom out. Selecting finish sketch. And let's select that feature, which is extrude 4. With this selected, I'm going to right click and select edit feature. Let's update the profile. I'm going to hold control to add this new profile. Leaving the defaults, selecting OK. And notice it automatically updated. Let's inspect. Excess material removed. Moving forward, let's apply the drafts on the sides of our model. I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing DR and selecting draft. For the type, we're going to select parting line. Let me start off by selecting the faces, which are these faces. Notice tangent chain is enabled. For the parting tool, left click here to activate this. I'm going to select this chain of edges at the bottom, activating pull direction, let's select this plane, which is XY. And for the angle, we're going to key in 4. Let's inspect. Heading to top view. Selecting OK. Next, let's create the sketch for the rib. I'm going to hit L for a line, and let's sketch on our XZ plane. Next, let's hit P for project, and let's project this edges and this edge. Selecting OK. Hit O for offset, and I would like to offset this projected line by 25. Hitting enter. Hit L for line, create a line, collinear. Moving to the right, double left click here. Place our first point here for our third line, and double left click here. Hitting escape. Next, let me extend this line going up to this horizontal line, and same with this line as well. With that, I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing EX and selecting this extend. Hovering over this line, so notice the red projection. Same. I'm going to right click. Let's repeat extend, and let's extend this line going to this horizontal line. Hitting escape, and let's hit T to trim this out, and trimming this excess line as well. Next, I'm going to hit escape and hit D for dimension, and let's dimension the distance between these two parallel lines. Once more, they should be 25. Hitting escape and selecting finish sketch. Moving forward, let's now hit S to grab our shortcuts, typing RI and selecting rib. That curve will be this curve. Thickness options to be symmetric. Depth options to be 2 necks. Thickness should be 6. And it's simply flipping the direction. Looking nice. Selecting OK. Let's now apply fillets to the sharp corners. And recall that the fillet for this features sketch is also 20. Let's automate this, and let's recall the parameter of that fillet, which is under sketch 2. I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing PAR, and we are going to select change parameters. And that parameter is under unsaved and specifically sketch 2, which is radial dimension D12. So notice here, recall, we made D13 to be D12 as well. Keeping this in mind, D12, selecting OK. Let's now hit F for fillet, selecting this edge and this edge. And on this dialog box, I'm going to type in D12. Looking nice, selecting OK. Next, let's apply drafts to these two faces. Hitting S for design shortcuts, typing DR, selecting draft. For the type, it will be parting line. Let's first identify the faces, selecting this face, parting tool to be this edge. For the pull direction, I'm going to select this top face, drop sides to be symmetric, and let's flip pull direction. Inspecting, selecting OK, and let's mirror this draft to the other side. Hitting S for design shortcuts, typing MI, selecting this mirror. For the type, it will be features, and that feature or object is our latest draft. Activating our mirror plane, selecting our XZ, and for compute option, this will be optimized. Selecting OK, and let's inspect. The length of this edge should be 6. Confirmed. Let's now add the holes. Let's start off by adding the hole here. Hitting H for hole, and we are prompted to select a face or sketch points. This time, we're going to select this face. Let me head up to top view, and I'm going to grab this blue dot. And notice it snaps on the center or our origin. The extent to be all. Hole type to be simple. Hole tap type to be simple as well. And for the drill point, any of the two will do. And for the diameter, we're going to key in 15. And objects to cut, definitely we only have one body. And selecting OK. Let's repeat the procedure. Hitting H for hole, selecting this face. Let's now head over to top view. Grab this blue dot. Change the extent to all. Hole type to be simple, hole tap type to be simple, drill point to be at an angle, and for the diameter, I'm going to key in 45. Selecting OK. Next, let's add the hole at the back. And let's locate the sketch we're in. We have a line touching the end of the cylinder's edge. So I'm going to turn on Sketch 2. Next, I'm going to head up to Construct and select Plane Along Path. And that path is this projected line. Next, I'm going to key in 0 so that it will move exactly to the end. Selecting OK. Let's now turn off the visibility of Sketch 2. Select this plane. Right-click and select Create Sketch. Next, I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing PO. Selecting point. Let's drop the point here. Next, hitting Escape. Selecting our horizontal vertical constraint. Selecting this point and this origin. Hitting Escape. And now let's hit D for dimension and let's define the distance between these 2 points to be 20. Hitting Escape and let's now select Finish Sketch. Let's now hit H for hole, and for that sketch point, it will be this newly created point. Let's scroll down. And for extent, let's flip the direction. For the hole type, it will be simple, hole tap type to be tapped. Let's scroll down. Thread type to be isometric profile. The size to be 10. Let's search for that, selecting 10. Designation to be M10 by 1.25, leaving the defaults. Class to be 6H, direction right hand, and we prefer this being modeled. Let's now inspect and redefine the extent to be up to this face. Let's now select OK. Inspecting. And finally, let's add the fillets. Hitting F for fillet. Let's select this edges. Selecting this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge. Inspecting. The value to be 2. And finally, leaving the defaults and selecting OK. Congratulations for completing the phase 1. Okay, thank you so much for reaching up to this point in the video. I'd like to invite you to join our parent community in Facebook, which is Autodesk Community of Philippines. Inviting you to join us in Autodesk Fusion 360 User Group Philippines, and in LinkedIn, we are Fusion 360 worldwide users. And finally, support us in training more students and educators into the world of Autodesk. Let's now move forward to phase 2. But first, let's clean up the bodies. I'm going to select this hidden surface body, right-click and select Remove. Next, let's head up to this drop-down and change our workspace to Simulation. For this study, it will be a static stress. Double left-click. Let's start out by defining the materials and moving to the right. So for materials, let's head over to this drop down and scroll down and search for aluminum 6061 T6. For demonstration purposes, let's select cold formed instead. Selecting OK. Next, for the constraints, it will be fixed, and we will be constraining this cylinder's face. Axis to be UX, UI, UZ. Selecting OK. In addition, I want you to take a note of our pre-check. Notice the X mark. It means our study is not yet fully defined. Let's now head over to Loads. The type to be force, selecting the cylinder's face. Notice for phase 2, the force is pulling this feature or face down. So I'm going to head over to our Y and key in 90. So notice the direction of our force is now pointing downward. And for the magnitude, it will be 1,000 newtons. Take note of the settings, selecting OK. And finally, notice up on our pre-check, it's now a check mark, which means we are free to finally select Solve. And this time, we're going to select the option of solving this using the cloud. And notice it requires 5 cloud credits. Selecting Solve 1 study. But first, we need to save this into the cloud. Let me name this as 2009. And selecting Save. And Fusion 360 and now solving this study in the cloud. And congratulations, our study failed. The reason for this, let me select close. Meshing in simulation requires simplification. Notice a while ago, we have this hole modeled in detail, and Fusion 360 meshed this to a high extent. Let's go back to our design workspace. Head over to this hole, right-click, selecting Edit Feature, and let's have this unmodeled. Let's now select OK. By having this unmodeled, we are given here a graphical representation that this hole is tapped. Let's now head back to our simulation workspace. Head over to the mesh, right-click, and let's generate a new mesh. Meshing done. Notice the simplification. And from here, we can now head back to solving this study. This time, let's select locally and selecting solve. We now have the results details. Notice the green check. This product is good to go with a high factor of safety at 5.44. Let me close our job status window. And same with our result details. And from here, I can move this slider to give a detailed results to view the factor of safety. In addition, we can select this drop down to determine the effects of the stress, the displacement, the reaction force, and the strain. And that's conducting a simulation. Simple as a 1, 2, 3 in Fusion 360. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next SOLIDWORKS Model Mania made in Fusion 360.